Welcome back to Your iFuture. I'm Marcus Reid, and joining me as always is Dr. Sarah Chen. Sarah, we've got a packed show today, and I'll just say this up front. If you're a white-collar worker, a CFO, or an entrepreneur, you are going to want to stay until the end, because this week's data is not subtle.
Not subtle at all, Marcus. Let's start with the number that's going to define the next 12 months in corporate America, 502,000. That's how many AI-driven job cuts CFOs are planning in 2026. And here's what makes that figure jaw-dropping. It's 9 times the number from 2025.
9 times. In 1 year. And these are not factory workers. These are knowledge workers. Finance teams, legal departments, HR, middle management. The CFOs surveyed are being remarkably candid about it. They see AI not as a supplement, but as a replacement strategy at scale.
I want to add context here, though, Marcus, because I think the framing matters. These are planned cuts, not completed ones. And historically, technology transitions have created displacement before they created new categories of work. What I'm watching is whether the retraining infrastructure exists to absorb that shock this time.
Fair point. And that connects to a story we'll get to later about FedEx. But let me stay on the macro picture for a second, because there's a counter-narrative here that I find equally compelling.
The business formation data.
Exactly. 1.56 million new business applications filed between November 2025 and January 2026 alone. That is the highest 3-month total since 2004. And I don't think that's a coincidence. I think people who see the wave coming are choosing to ride it, rather than wait to get hit.
The research supports that interpretation. A significant portion of these new formations are solo operators and micro businesses that are explicitly built around AI tools as their core infrastructure. They're not hiring 10 people. They're one person wielding what used to require a team. The economics are completely different.
Which brings us to a product that caught my attention this week. Alibaba launched something called Accio Work. It's a plug-and-play AI task force aimed directly at small and medium enterprises. And in a remarkably short window, it's already hit 500,000 users.
What I find interesting about Accio Work architecturally is that it's not asking you to build anything. You literally describe what your business does, and it spins up a coordinated set of AI agents for customer service, supply chain queries, document processing, pre-configured and ready to run. That's a massive reduction in the technical barrier for SME adoption.
And Alibaba knows exactly who they're targeting. The SME market globally is enormous, and most of those businesses have been left out of the enterprise AI conversation entirely. Accio Work is a land grab, and 500,000 users in this time frame tells you the demand was waiting.
Now, one challenge with deploying AI agents at that scale is accountability. How do you know if they're actually adding value? Which is why I want to talk about Revenium's new product, AI Outcomes.
This is one of the more practically important launches of the quarter, in my opinion. Revenium is generating what they call a P&L statement for every single AI agent execution. Revenue generated, cost of inference, time saved, errors caught. Actual financials, per agent, per run.
For operators, this is the missing layer. Right now, most companies deploying agents are essentially flying blind. They know the agents are running, but they can't tie execution back to business outcomes. Revenium closes that gap. And from a governance standpoint, this is exactly what CFOs and boards need to start treating AI spend like capital allocation.
If I'm building an AI-forward business in 2026, this kind of tool is not optional. It's infrastructure. You cannot manage what you cannot measure. And right now, most AI deployments are completely unmeasured. Okay, let's shift to some breaking news in the foundation model space, because this has been a wild week.
OpenAI shutting down Sora is the one that caught me off guard.
It caught everyone off guard. Sora was their flagship video generation product, genuinely impressive technology, and they've just pulled it. The pivot is toward enterprise and coding tools ahead of what looks like an imminent IPO run. My read: they're optimizing for revenue predictability, and video generation is too expensive and too hard to monetize at scale right now.
There's a strategic logic there. Enterprise contracts are recurring, auditable, and command premium pricing. Video generation is consumer-facing, highly competitive, and the margins are thin given the compute cost. If you're preparing for an IPO and you need to show clean unit economics, you make the hard call.
I still think it's a retreat. Sora was a differentiator, but I understand the calculus.
Now here's where things get really interesting for the competitive landscape. The same week OpenAI pulls back on Sora, information surfaces about Anthropic's next flagship model, internally codenamed Claude Mythos.
And the details that leaked are significant. We're talking about reasoning capabilities that reportedly exceed anything currently deployed, with particular strength in scientific and technical domains. The phrase being used internally is most capable model yet, by a meaningful margin.
What I find notable is the timing relative to OpenAI's IPO positioning. If Anthropic releases Claude Mythos in the next quarter, it fundamentally changes the competitive dynamic, right? As OpenAI is trying to tell a public market story about its moat.
The foundation model race is not over. That's the message. And nobody should be treating any single player as having locked this up. Now, the IBM story. Sarah, I want your take on this because I think the market reaction was completely rational.
IBM dropped 13% in a single session after Anthropic made comments about Claude's ability to modernize COBOL systems. And people might think, wait, isn't that IBM's business? Yes, exactly. IBM has built a significant practice around being the trusted intermediary for enterprises that need to maintain, update, or migrate legacy COBOL systems. If Claude can do that directly,
the intermediary disappears.
Or, at minimum, gets dramatically cheaper and faster, and the market priced that risk immediately. What I'd push back on slightly is that enterprise software migration is never purely a technical problem. It involves organizational change management, regulatory approval, stakeholder alignment. IBM's relationships still have value.
But 13% in a day tells you the market is repricing that value. And I think that's correct. Any business whose core value proposition is human expertise in a narrow technical domain needs to be asking hard questions right now. Let's move to healthcare, because the Eli Lilly announcement is genuinely historic.
$2.75 billion. That's what Eli Lilly paid in a deal with In Silico Medicine for a drug candidate that was substantially developed by AI. This is not a small pilot or a research partnership. This is a major pharmaceutical company writing a multi-billion-dollar check for an AI-generated molecule.
From a business standpoint, this validates the entire AI drug discovery category at a scale that was theoretical 2 years ago. In Silico's platform compresses what used to be a decade-long discovery process into months. And Lilly is betting nearly $3 billion that the output is real.
The implications for the pharmaceutical industry are profound. Drug discovery has historically been the ultimate knowledge worker profession. PhD chemists, biologists, years of intuition-driven research. AI doesn't replace the clinical trial process, but it is fundamentally disrupting the front end of the pipeline. Whoever owns the best AI drug discovery platform in 5 years owns an enormous competitive advantage.
And it creates a new investment category. AI-native biotech is going to attract significant capital, as this deal signals market validation. Now, I want to end on 2 stories that I think are actually the most important for the average person watching this. FedEx and MCP.
FedEx first because the scale is remarkable. 400,000 workers. That's the size of their program to build AI literacy across their entire workforce. Not just technology staff, operations workers, drivers, logistics coordinators, everyone.
FedEx is making a bet that an AI-literate workforce is a competitive moat. And I think they're right. The companies that win in this environment aren't necessarily the ones with the best AI tools. They're the ones where human workers can effectively collaborate with those tools. That requires genuine literacy, not just a 1-hour training module.
The research on human-AI collaboration consistently shows that the gains are largest when the human operator understands the tool's limitations, not just its capabilities. FedEx seems to understand this. I'd like to see more Fortune 500 companies matching this commitment.
And if you're a worker watching this is the playbook. Don't wait for your company to offer it. Build that literacy yourself, on your own time, right now. The workers who thrive through this transition are the ones who close that gap proactively.
Which connects perfectly to our final story, and honestly, the one I'm most excited about from a structural standpoint. MCP, the Model Context Protocol, has crossed 97 million installs.
97 million. And for viewers who aren't tracking this, MCP is the open standard that lets AI agents talk to external systems, Databases, APIs, applications, tools. It's the connective tissue that makes agentic AI actually functional in the real world.
What we're watching happen in real time is the emergence of a de facto standard for the agentic layer. When a protocol crosses this kind of adoption threshold, it tends to become sticky. Developers build to it, products integrate it, and eventually it becomes invisible infrastructure, like HTTP for the web.
The business implication is significant. Any company building AI agents that aren't MCP compatible right now is building technical debt. Any developer who doesn't understand MCP is missing the foundational skill of the next 5 years.
The velocity of adoption here is really the story. From niche developer tool to 97 million installs represents a rate of diffusion that's faster than most major developer protocols in history.
All right, let's land this plane with takeaways. Sarah, give me your top 2.
First, the job displacement numbers are real, but the timing is not uniform. The companies and roles most exposed are those doing repetitive knowledge work with low human judgment requirements. If you're in that category, you have 18 to 24 months to reposition, and that window is not forever. Second, MCP is the infrastructure story nobody outside developer circles is talking about. Pay attention to it.
Mine. The entrepreneurship surge is the most underreported signal in this entire dataset. 1.56 million business applications in 3 months tells you that a segment of the workforce is not waiting to be displaced. They're building new things with AI as the foundation. That's the mindset that wins. And second, accountability tools like Retraining are going to become required infrastructure for any serious AI deployment. If your AI spend is not measured, it is not managed.
Well said.
That's a wrap on the Your AI Future Roundtable for March 31st, 2026. If this gave you value, subscribe, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and we will see you in the next one. I'm Marcus Reid.
And I'm Dr. Sarah Chen. Stay informed and stay ahead.